there's three kind of really big projects that were uncovered in that data, in that information dump, that FOIA dump that you were able to get your hands on. One of them is a medical research facility that is going to supposedly be built on campus. They're going to lease it out, be able to raise revenue through that, but also it plays into kind of the direction the school wants to go, move into that AAU certification and things of that nature. One that's farther down the line that we'll get into probably later is a hotel on campus that they're also trying to get into. And the third, and I think the one that a lot of people are super interested in hearing about, and we can get into it a little later, is kind of the whole Saudi money, private equity kind of side of things that people have kind of speculated about. Is this going to be a live golf situation with Florida State and things of that nature? But I guess the medical research facility would be a great place to start, and kind of what's lined out in there.
I was gonna say, one of the things when we talked about it last time, this was before Bill got the amazing information out. We talked a little bit about the difference between like smart use of private resources and private partnerships, and then sort of some more ridiculous things. One of the things that really struck me about what Bill's found is I think Florida State is looking at really smart, sharp, narrowly defined, likely to be successful endeavors. Bringing in people to help with the marketing. There's another piece they have talking about marketing partnerships, stuff like that, rather than some of the pie in the sky things that we've heard and we're kind of worried about. Like, kind of like, are we going to see some like dumb money? Are they going to try to, outsource the whole thing? People had rumors about, and Bill's really found that they're looking at very well-defined, smart, probably very, very economically beneficial additions for the school.
Yeah, and I would, you mentioned those three things on the private equity side, and I'd step back. There's another three stepping one step back. You've got, trying to get the litigation, the settlement number down, which you can see that kind of play out in real time. They have the bond financing where if they get a really good interest rate, they might have extra borrow capacity to squeeze some more money out of that. And then third, they've got this series of private equity pieces. And on that point, there was an email in one of the documents that where some of this university officials kind of put the brakes on the whole Saudi type of level of equity investment, saying, we can't just sell our assets without state legislation or competitive bidding processes. So, and I think they referred to what they potentially could do would be a super marketing media relations deal with somebody as a partnership. So they did have at the very beginning, some parameters that the accountants and the financial folks at the university kind of put on them. And they had JP Morgan was brought on to help advise them dealing with two firms that are real estate investors, also involved in media businesses. And they've been going through these term sheets. And I will say it has been a long time since they've had them on board. So, maybe there was a hope that there would be a big value they could extract for them back, 14, 15 months ago. But if there was something that they could strike that was just, jaw dropping on the equity piece, that would have come together in months, not over a year. So I think they've started to narrow it down. In the redacted pages, there was one fully redacted spreadsheet that talked about the healthcare. It was Catalyst Real Estate
That's right.
Partners. And I passed by that spreadsheet after I read it probably 3 times, and I just kept passing by it because the whole spreadsheet was just redacted except for the footer. And then I did a research project with the University of California, Davis, where they paired with their medical center and a real estate company that did something called an innovation district, which seems to me like a way that a real estate company could kind of come into a university space, lease it out to potential businesses, grow those businesses, and share in the upside of the businesses. So, well, maybe there's something there. And lo and behold, there was a news release a couple of weeks ago that this Catalyst Real Estate Group had taken over management of the Football Operations Center, which is a $110 million plus facility that they had a contractor on board. They let them go. They couldn't get a guaranteed max price, apparently, that they wanted for that facility. So this real estate firm has come in now to manage it. Now, we don't know what the deal is. It could be that they're simply a construction manager. They could be leasing the ground from the university. My guess is that they're probably building the building, leasing the ground, because you can't sell the ground. The university can't give up their property. They don't want somebody holding property inside the campus. So they're going to lease the ground to this group. They'll build the building. That group will lease out some of the space to private parties. The university, FSU, might share in some of that revenue, and then they'll lease some of it for their football operations center. But having a medical component to your university is extremely valuable, because people want to be co-located with the medical research. And I've seen that value add is across the country. There are universities that have medical campuses, components that are doing these kind of public-private ventures. So
maybe you can lease out a space to Andrews Institute. I mean, stuff like that. You know,
yeah.
If a floor of the building was for that, that'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah. So that's what I think the medical piece will be. But until we, get and that's certainly, if you look at the kind of projects the Catalyst Real Estate Group has done, they've done medical facilities, small medical facilities like this. And then do you want to go to the second one? The hotel, on the hotel side, I don't have, all I've seen is in the master plan that they have a hotel plan next to the arena. I didn't see any details on it being there, but I've seen other universities have ground leases with hotel developments, and they do generate money for the university. So that seems to me to be another potential part.
Seems like the farthest down the line of the different things you were talking about. You spoke on the $500 million in bonds, or possibly. I don't think people kind of realize, because people talk a lot about the size of Florida State's endowment. We've talked a lot about it on this show, how we rely on the TV money for the year-to-year cost of doing business. And we'll talk later about how they already have figured in how much more money it's going to cost to compete in the Big 10 once we hypothetically get over there. But what are these bonds that they're sitting on? And one thing we talk about here is, like, I don't think people realize, win or lose this case, it's just about how much money it's going to cost. And Florida State, even if it does cost $500 million, they're prepared to do that. And I guess those bonds is one big time way to do so.
Yeah. So the bonds, and I like coming on these shows and hearing the feedback, because sometimes I don't maybe communicate as clearly as I should when I put this out. So the bonds, they do have $500 million in projects active that they want to build. So they were on the process to issue those bonds for stadium construction, the football operations center, and let's see, the third thing is they're going to refinance some old bonds. They're borrowing at like 4% right now, so they probably were trying to, maybe they had a bond that was at 6%,
which is better than any private company can get.
That's like what is that 2006 mortgage rate like area right there?
Yeah. I was just hearing that, and my head just went, what? Oh,
yeah.
It's good to be a big university.
It really is.
It's big. It's great to be in the state of Florida. And I mentioned one thing, if right now the way the bonds are structured is they're going to use the revenue from the football tickets and things to pay these things back. If the state of Florida came in and said, you know what, you can use the system-wide revenue of the Florida State system. And this has happened at California State University did this for San Diego State University when they did their football stadium. When the whole university system puts their balance sheet behind a bond financing versus the revenue from the potential tickets of the football stadium, your interest rate drops, because there's so much more security by having, the backing of a $5 or $6 billion university system versus having just the revenue from the tickets. So watching the bond financing, they need $500 million, but if the interest rate drops or the university puts their balance sheet behind it, it could drop the interest rates to where instead of being able to borrow $500 million, maybe they can borrow $550 million, $570 million. So they'd have that kind of the increment above the $500 million that they could then apply to the exit fee. So that's how the bond structure was working.